In the path of inner development, one of the most transformative recognitions is that the people who disturb us are not the source of disturbance. They are the trigger. They are mirrors, and what they reflect is not their nature, but our unresolved fragments. When someone provokes anger, it is not their words alone that cause the fire, it is the dry leaves already within us, waiting for a spark. This means that people do not bring something foreign into us, they awaken what is already there. To live free from anger and irritation, one must first understand the mechanism of projection. When we walk through life without self-awareness, we often believe that our reactions are caused by external events. A rude comment, a dismissive tone, a betrayal, all these seem like legitimate reasons to be disturbed. But if two people are exposed to the same situation and only one reacts in rage, we must ask, was it the situation or was it the person's inner state? The answer lies in our conditioning. Our upbringing, traumas, beliefs, fears, all these become filters through which we interpret others. And the more emotional residue we carry, the more likely we are to be triggered. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and seeing a smudge on your face. Would you reach out to wipe the glass, or would you clean your own skin? When someone bothers you, they are not placing something on you, they are showing you what is already there. This is not about blame. This is about responsibility. The moment you stop trying to fix the mirror and start cleansing your reflection, you begin to reclaim your peace. Let us take an example. A man enters a room and speaks with arrogance. His words are filled with superiority. One person in the room remains calm, unaffected. Another burns with anger, filled with resentment. Why? The arrogant man is the same, but in the second person, there may be an unhealed wound from the past, perhaps from a controlling father or a humiliating authority figure. The arrogance awakens that buried emotion. The anger is not about the man. It is about the past that was never released. So when we say people reflect what you haven't resolved, we mean that they bring to light what you are still holding in darkness. This recognition is not always comfortable. It demands humility. It means saying, if I am disturbed, it is not because you are this or that. It is because something within me has not yet healed. But with this humility comes power, because now instead of waiting for others to change, you focus on transforming yourself. The moment you accept the mirror, you begin to clean the reflection. There is also a deeper truth hidden here. Often, the qualities we judge in others are the very ones we deny in ourselves. This is called the shadow, the part of us we refuse to see. A person who cannot stand selfishness may be denying their own suppressed desire to put themselves first. A person who is angered by loudness may be hiding their own fear of being seen or heard. The mirror does not lie. It simply reveals, and the more we resist it, the more fiercely it reflects. To work with this insight, we begin by observing our emotional triggers. Each time we are bothered by someone, we pause and ask, what inside me is being touched? Where have I felt this before? What is this reaction pointing toward? We do not ask these questions to judge ourselves, but to liberate ourselves. Because in seeing clearly, we loosen the grip of the unconscious. We stop being puppets pulled by invisible strings. We become aware, and awareness is the beginning of freedom. One may argue, but some people are truly harmful. Their behavior is unjust. This is true. This insight does not excuse abuse or justify wrongdoing. It simply shifts the focus. Even when action must be taken to protect ourselves, we can act without anger. We can speak truth without poison. We can walk away without burning. Recognizing the mirror does not mean we become passive. It means we stop reacting blindly. Respect with clarity from woundedness. Those who irritate us the most can become our greatest allies, not because they are right, but because they show us where we still have work to do. They press the buttons, and we learn which buttons must be dismantled. And with each dismantled button, we grow lighter, more at ease, less reactive. Each emotional charge we dissolve becomes one less hook the world can grab onto. The mirror becomes cleaner, the reflection becomes peaceful, and we begin to live not in defense, but in quiet strength. One of the root causes of human suffering is not what happens in the world, but how tightly we hold on to the idea of how the world should be. Expectations are like invisible contracts we sign with reality, without telling reality about it. We carry these silent agreements in our minds. People should be kind. They should speak with respect. They should understand us. They should know better. They should behave according to the rules we've created. But the world is not obligated to meet the standards you've built inside your mind. The more we expect others to fit our mental image of how they should be, the more pain we invite. It begins subtly. We expect a friend to remember something important to us, and when they don't, we feel hurt. We expect a stranger to be courteous, and when they aren't, we feel insulted. We expect family to support us in a specific way, and when they fall short, we feel betrayed. But all these emotions do not come from the event. They come from the distance between what happened and what we expected. In that gap, anger is born. In that gap, disappointment grows. To free yourself from being disturbed by people, you must first become aware of the blueprint you carry in your mind. If someone offends you, ask yourself, what did I expect from them that they did not fulfill? Maybe you expected them to be more thoughtful, more mature, more grateful. But where did that expectation come from? Is it based on their nature or your assumption? Have they ever promised you they would meet that expectation? Often, the answer is no. We build these assumptions not based on truth, but based on our own preferences, values, or emotional needs. When people fail to meet those assumptions, we feel wronged, yet they never agreed to play by our rules in the first place. This insight does not mean we must abandon all standards or tolerate mistreatment, but it asks us to separate between what is necessary and what is ego-driven. If you demand someone always speak gently to you, what you're really saying is, I cannot tolerate being spoken to harshly. That intolerance comes from sensitivity, not strength. Strength is when you no longer depend on others' behavior to decide your own peace. Detachment from expectation means you stop making your well-being conditional. Most people live in reaction. If others are kind, they are happy. If others are rude, they are angry. In this way, their inner world is like a puppet moved by the strings of external behavior. But if you cut those strings, if you no longer hinge your state of mind on what others do, you regain your sovereignty. You no longer say, I am peaceful because everyone is treating me right. You say, I am peaceful because I no longer require anyone to treat me right. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means clarity. It means people as they are, not as you want them to be. The moment you accept that someone may be late, may forget, may act selfishly, may be unconscious, you are no longer shocked when it happens. You see it for what it is. Their behavior, not your burden. Their state, not your problem. When you remove expectation, your inner world becomes calm, not because others have changed, but because you've stopped demanding they change. This requires inner discipline. The ego thrives on expectation. It wants others to conform, to validate, to obey. But the ego is fragile. It is easily offended, easily disturbed. To rise above this, one must learn to observe the ego's urges without indulging them. When the mind says, they shouldn't have done that, simply notice. Don't agree. Don't argue. Just observe. That observation weakens the ego's grip. You begin to act from awareness, not reaction. Many conflicts, both internal and external, can be traced back to unmet expectations. We carry a picture of how life should unfold, and when reality paints a different picture, we resist it. That resistance creates suffering, but the river does not argue with the rocks in its path. It flows around them. When you no longer insist that life follow your plan, you begin to flow. You begin to respond instead of resist. You begin to let others be who they are, and you conserve your energy for what truly matters. What you will notice over time is that people become less threatening when you expect less from them. You no longer feel the need to control their words, their emotions, their opinions. You no longer build your peace upon their behavior. And ironically, when you stop demanding others to behave, your presence becomes more peaceful, more magnetic. People may still misbehave, but it doesn't stick to you. You walk through the fire and come out unsinged because the fire was never inside you. It was only ever in your refusal to accept things as they are. When anger arises, it doesn't begin in the words spoken by another. It begins in the space within you that those words enter. That space, if left untended, becomes reactive. It flares up, it tightens, it contracts. And in that contraction, we lose our balance. We forget ourselves. We step out of our center and hand over our clarity to the chaos of emotion. But there is a way to remain untouched, to hold our stillness like a mountain in the wind. That way begins with the breath. The breath is not just air moving in and out of the lungs. It is life flowing through you. It is the only function in the body that operates both automatically and consciously. That is not an accident. It is an invitation. The invitation is simple: return. Return to what is always here. Return to the only moment that exists. When someone speaks to you with disrespect, your mind may rush into interpretation. How dare they? It says. Why me? It asks. What should I say payback? It screams. But all this noise lives in time. It pulls you into a story. It drags you into reaction. The breath does not live in the past where the insult was formed. It does not live in the future where the mind is planning its revenge. The breath lives in now. So the first practice is to recognize the moment your peace begins to slip. The body will tell you. It will tighten in the jaw, clench in the fists, rise in the chest. That is the moment to breathe. Slowly, deeply, with awareness. Let the exhale become an anchor. Let it draw you out of the story and back into sensation. You are no longer in the person's world, you are in your body. In this sacred return, you find that the grip of the other person weakens because you have withdrawn the fuel of your attention. Most people think they need to fix the situation to find peace, but what you really need is to fix your core presence. The breath brings you back to that presence. It is a way of saying, I do not need to escape this moment. I need to be here fully. That fullness becomes your strength, because when you are fully here, no one else can occupy your inner space. You stop living on the surface where words cut easily. You begin to live from your depth where nothing reaches unless invited. This depth is not passive. It is intensely aware. It feels the emotion but does not drown in it. It sees the urge to react but does not obey it. Instead, it chooses, and choice is what separates chaos from mastery. When you breathe, you interrupt the automatic loop of stimulus and response. You introduce a pause. And within that pause, a new path opens. A path where you are not driven by old patterns. A path where you are not enslaved by your nervous system. A path where you can act not from woundedness, but from wisdom. The breath also reveals something deeper. It shows you how temporary everything is. An inhale rises, peaks, and fades. So does a thought. So does anger. So does an insult. Nothing lingers unless we hold it. But most people do not realize they are holding on. They grip their judgments, their pride, their expectations, and then wonder why they suffer. The breath teaches letting go. Every exhale is a surrender. Every inhale is a renewal. When you align with this rhythm, you begin to mirror life itself. Life does not hold grudges. It moves. It evolves. It releases. It is often said that anger is like a burning coal you hold, intending to throw it at another, but in the process, it burns your own hand. The breath is the hand that releases the coal, not by force, but by awareness. When you are connected to the breath, you no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to win the argument. You no longer crave validation, because the breath gives you presence, and presence is enough. It is complete. It is unbothered. In situations where you feel overwhelmed by another's behavior, do not immediately react outward. Instead, step inward. Find your breath. Feel the inhale rising like a wave. Feel the exhale washing over you like clarity. Let it purify the reactivity, the urge to speak, the need to justify. Let it empty the mind of its noise. Then look again. Listen again. Respond if necessary, but now from stillness. This is not about silence for the sake of politeness. It is about alignment with your true self. Your true self does not live in the opinions of others. It does not live in conflict. It lives in the quiet space between each breath. And the more time you spend there, the less anything outside you can disturb what is inside you. When something provokes you, when someone speaks out of turn or acts in a way then rightness, there is a force inside that wants to leap forward. That force is the habit of reaction. It wants to correct, to defend, to retaliate, to declare itself right and the other wrong. It is the oldest reflex in the mind to protect the identity, the image of self we carry. But this habit is not strength, it is noise. And the more you feed it, the more it grows. Strength true strength is found in the opposite direction. It is not in the outward surge of energy, but in the still inward silence that chooses not to be moved. Stillness is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of feeling. It means that even when the emotion arises, even when the tension builds and the words sit on the edge of your tongue, there is something deeper within you that holds its ground. That something is not suppression. It is presence. It watches the emotion like a wave rising in the ocean, strong, temporary, not to be feared. You do not chase the wave. You let it pass and you remain unmoved at the bottom of the sea. This stillness is power, because in it there is clarity. A reactive mind sees only fragments. It grabs onto the insult, the tone, the gesture, and amplifies it. It spins stories. They don't respect me. They always do this. I must teach them a lesson. In this haze of reaction, we lose sight of what is real. We fight shadows, but the still mind sees the whole. It sees not just the words, but the pain behind them, not just the behavior, but the cause beneath it. And from that vision, it chooses a wiser response or no response at all. One of the most misunderstood ideas is that stillness is weakness, that if you don't react, you're being passive, that if you don't defend yourself, you're being walked over. But what does it mean to defend yourself? Are you defending truth or ego? Are you standing for dignity or pride? Most reactions are not acts of integrity. They are acts of insecurity. The loudest voice in the room is often not the strongest. It is the most frightened. It is shouting because it is not rooted. Stillness, on the other hand, does not need volume. It does not need validation. It speaks when necessary with precision and calm, and its silence speaks even louder. Stillness is a discipline. It does not come by accident. You must cultivate it like a monk trains his body to sit motionless. You must train your mind to remain undisturbed. Begin by noticing the impulse to react. When someone says something that touches a nerve, observe the fire rising within you. Instead of following it, stay with it. Breathe into it. Watch how it burns and how it fades. Watch how it demands your voice and your attention, your retaliation. And gently say no. Say not this time. In that space between the stimulus and the reaction, you are building strength. It is invisible, but it is real. You are choosing yourself over your emotion. This is not emotional denial, it is emotional mastery. You are not pretending you are not hurt. You are simply choosing to respond from a place deeper than hurt. You are not denying your feelings. You are creating enough space within them so they do not control you. In that space, you remain sovereign. Others may provoke, but they cannot possess you. Their chaos does not reach your center because your center is rooted in something more solid than opinion. It is rooted in awareness. People who live in reaction are constantly drained. Every insult becomes a battle. Every disagreement becomes a war. But the one who chooses stillness conserves their energy. They invest it only where it matters. They do not waste it on noise. This is the wisdom of restraint, not because you are afraid to fight, but because you know which fights are worth it, and most are not. Most are invitations to lower your frequency, to meet someone else's unconsciousness with your own. But when you do not accept the invitation, something extraordinary happens. The energy does not escalate. The loop is broken. And in that breaking, you liberate not only yourself, but sometimes even the other. In stillness, there is also observation. You learn to see patterns, not just in others, but in yourself. You see which kinds of comments still hook you. You see which behaviors still trigger you, and you do not judge it. You study it. You work with it. You refine your inner world, and slowly the outer world begins to lose its power over you. You no longer depend on others to be kind, to be fair, to be respectful in order for you to feel peace. You carry that peace regardless. Not because the world is quiet, but because you are. When you choose stillness over reaction, you are choosing freedom. Freedom from being pulled in every direction by every mood, every insult, every careless action. You become a mountain in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the trees bend, but you remain. Not because you resist, but because you are grounded in what does not move. That groundedness cannot be given. It cannot be taught in words. It must be practiced in the fire of daily life, in each encounter where you are tempted to lash out, to defend, to attack. You are given the chance to go deeper, to root yourself further in presence. And in that presence, nothing can disturb you unless you let it in. When someone criticizes you, dismisses you, disrespects you, the mind immediately wants to take it personally. It contracts around the words, builds a story, and begins to carry the weight of that interaction. They don't value me. They're always against me. They don't understand who I am. These thoughts begin to form an emotional wall inside, and behind that wall, anger and defensiveness gather strength. But this is a prison. Every time you take someone's behavior as a personal attack, you reduce yourself to a reaction, and you give your power away to an unconscious mind. To transcend the personal is not to deny your feelings, it is to understand that not every arrow is aimed at you and not every blow carries your name. Most people operate from their own pain. They speak not from presence, but from wounds. If a person is constantly sarcastic, bitter, aggressive, it is often because life has not been kind to them. Perhaps they were never truly listened to. Perhaps their kindness was once mistaken for weakness, and so they armored themselves. Perhaps they are afraid to be vulnerable, and so they hide behind criticism. When you begin to see that much of human behavior is a reflection of inner suffering, you shift your perspective from judgment to understanding. You no longer ask, why are they doing this to me? But what must be going on inside them for this behavior to exist? This shift is not about excusing harm. It is about freeing yourself from carrying it. You can still draw boundaries. You can still walk away, but you do so without hatred. You do so without letting their unconsciousness take root in your own system. When you do not take things personally, you are no longer affected by every mood swing, every projection, every harsh word someone throws. Their actions may still reach your ears, but they don't reach inner peace. Becomes like a sacred temple, guarded not by walls, but by awareness. To see the pain behind the behavior, you must develop the ability to look deeper. When someone lashes out, instead of immediately defending yourself, observe. Look at their face, listen to the tone beneath the words. Is there fear? Is there insecurity? Is there a sense of being unheard? Often you will begin to sense that what they are expressing is not about you. It is about years of struggle, unspoken hurt, a nervous system wired to survive instead of connect. And in that moment, your heart may soften, not because you agree with their behavior, but because you see the human behind it. This way of seeing is an act of inner maturity. It is a sign that you are no longer ruled by your ego. The ego is always trying to protect itself, always trying to be right, to win, to prove its worth. But awareness does not need to prove anything. It simply sees. And what it sees is this: everyone is carrying something. Some carry grief, some carry shame, some carry a lifetime of rejection, and most of them don't even know they're carrying it. So they pass it on. They spill it into conversations, relationships, strangers. Not because they are bad, but because they are unconscious. They don't know a better way. And unless you see this, you will take their pain as your own. You will react instead of respond. You will echo their unconsciousness instead of transforming it. This transformation is not done by force, it is done by presence. When you are present, you begin to notice what your mind is doing. You see the moment it wants to personalize a situation. You hear the thoughts: they're targeting me, they're doing this because of me. And you pause, you ask, is this true? Not emotionally, but objectively. And often the answer is no. They are not doing it because of you. They are doing it in front of you. You just happen to be the nearest mirror for what they are projecting. To live from this understanding is to be grounded in compassion. Compassion is not weakness. It is a strength that comes from seeing the bigger picture. When you understand someone's pain, you are less likely to respond with your own. And when you respond from clarity instead of ego, you break the cycle. You do not add your reaction to their suffering. You remain still, clear, rooted. This clarity becomes a shield. It protects your energy not through force, but through understanding. In daily life, this can be practiced moment by moment. When a driver cuts you off, you don't have to take it personally. Maybe they're rushing to a hospital. Maybe they're lost in their own stress. When a colleague speaks sharply, you don't have to see it as an insult. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they've never learned how to express themselves with care. Each time you make room for this possibility, you loosen the grip of the personal story. You become less reactive, more observant, and observation brings peace. You begin to see that very little of what people do is about you. Most of it is about what they carry, what they fear, what they haven't yet healed. And the more deeply you realize this, the more untouchable your peace becomes. Not because you hide from the world, but because you see through it. You no longer stand in the battlefield of every emotion. You rise above, not with arrogance, but with insight. And from that higher ground, you can choose your response, not out of habit, but out of wisdom.